Welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. This is a sacred space where healing begins, intuition awakens, and your spirit remembers its power. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, author, energy healing specialist, hypnotherapist, and spiritual life coach. For over 35 years, I've guided thousands of souls to protect their energy, trust their intuition, and step into their most empowered self. I invite you to join me for heartfelt conversations, spiritual insights, and gentle practices that nurture your soul and inspire your daily life. And together, we'll explore how to rise above negativity, trust your inner wisdom, and embrace the truth of who you are, a divine, radiant being of love and strength. So take a breath, settle in, and know you are not alone on this journey. You are loved. You are supported, and you are more powerful than you've ever been told. So let's rise together and join me now as your host. So thank you for joining me today, and welcome to the Spiritual Warrior Coach podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Savin, and I am so excited to introduce you to a truly soulful woman today whose work is truly rooted in compassion, in healing, and deep intuitive wisdom. So today's guest is Gina Kitzmiller, a professional intuitive, an energy healer, and the creator of the Karuna Life. And she's also the Amazon best-selling author of Soul Walk, The Unexpected Gifts of Grief and Connection to Those in Spirit. So today, boy, we're going to talk about spirit guides, intuitive development, learning to trust your inner wisdom and knowledge and everything else. And welcome, Gina, to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Barbara. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Oh, me too. You know, it's so dear to my heart when you like for myself, finding like-minded people, like yourself, because as we were talking about before we started, I struggled for so many, much of my life having to be quiet about my abilities. And now, in 2026, it's so beautiful to see so many that are into energy healing and spiritual coaching and meditation, sound baths, yoga. It's like my heart is singing, thank you,
These are all my favorite things to talk about too,
I
right?
know. Me too. So let me ask you, what's I know, you wrote this book, Soul Walk. What actually is the story behind it? And um, I guess what would you hope readers feel that how they can maybe close the last page?
That's a good question. Soul Walk, I wrote it several years ago, but it was really the story, and I'm sure some people can relate, of I had married my husband Joe, who's an amazing person, and we had met at 15. We both had first marriages, and then we got together in our early 30s. We had two beautiful kids, and life is, I thought, was going to be perfect. This is my happy ending. And unfortunately, he was an alcoholic. And so that started to take its toll on our marriage, and we eventually separated. And then he passed by suicide in
Oh,
2018. So I went through that I call it like the grief transformation of expecting my life to look one way and then having a chapter that I didn't want or expect, and then having to kind of learn through that experience, which really brought some gifts, which were kind of unexpected. It helped me develop my intuition. It helped me learn boundaries and to own my own truth. And there was just a lot of really beautiful things that came out of a very dark period. And so I wanted to share my experience. And my hope is that I share a lot about my own experience with intuition, talking with my spirit guides, and learning to trust that. But I certainly don't want to tell anyone that their story has to look like mine. So my hope is that they might just take little bits or pieces from it and maybe apply it to their own life, or give them food for thought, that they might think or view their loved ones in spirit differently, that they might feel comforted knowing that they are still with them and walking next to them, and then take that little bit of peace in their heart after they finish reading the book.
oh, that's a tough one.
It's a lot.
Uh, how did you deal with that, especially, having two children? I mean,
Um,
what do you say to them?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was really difficult. I think one of the hardest things was I was pretty honest up front. I feel like God sometimes helps put the right people in your path, and I was certainly guided to have the right support team around me. So I was honest with them. I think that what I learned is that children grieve very differently, and so their grief looked very different than mine. But even early on, I started talking about their dad and signs. And so they would start looking for signs from their dad. And they even had things that didn't mean something to me, but it meant something to them. So it's been like kind of interesting to see how that has kind of shifted because now they're teenagers, but they still have things. We still talk about him all the time, and he still very much is a part of them and their lives and in our conversations. And so, in that way, we carry him forward. And I do believe he still walks next to us in spirit, helping to support when we go through life changes, or if I need help with the kids. I'll get ladybugs they'll just show up, and it's a nice reminder that I'm still with you. I'm supporting you, and I'm helping to guide all of you.
Wow, gee, I wonder why somebody would do that. You know, it's, I mean, I have a client that her son, who's 38 years old,
Hmm.
with two young children, decided to commit suicide.
Hmm.
And yet there was no indication. Was there an indication with him that,
He had some mental health issues, and then I think, unfortunately, I think his alcoholism kind of combined together, and it's really unfortunate. But I almost just feel like at that point he almost just got so low he just couldn't recover. And yeah, so it is something. I have known other people that have family members and friends that have died by suicide as well. And it's one of the questions that I ask. I even ask my guides because it does seem to be so much more prevalent. My daughter lost a friend this past year to suicide, and you just, it does leave you asking those questions, especially with their young, why, what is the meaning behind this? So I wish I had some answer, that I could give that would provide some understanding. But for me, the way that my guides have, and even Joe in Spirit has explained it, is that he says he just ran out of road. There was no more road for him to go. Like this was his life's contract, and it was his life plan. And once that road ended, based on his choices, because I want to, there's that accountability of how he came through life and how he was processing and dealing with things. But he just says he ran out of no more road. There was no more road. So,
oh, that's interesting that you say that because I never thought of it that way, running out of road and then just figuring this is it.
mhm.
That's
Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. I will say that for Joe, he said that when he passed, immediately he had peace and he had wisdom and knowledge, and he understood immediately what had happened and what he had done. I do think there was a little bit of regret, like that immediate of the realization, and yet, like at that moment, what is done is done. But he's very much at peace. I mean, in spirit, he's very much like he was in his best self. And he always would say that in the beginning. I don't want you to remember me the way that I was at the end. That's not who I am. I want you to remember me when I was healthy. Remember that version of me because that's very much who he is in spirit.
oh wow, that's a beautiful thing though. You know,
Mhm.
him to come across that way to you.
Yes, it does. It brings me a lot of peace.
Hmm. So let me, did you have your abilities prior to him leaving this world?
I would say that I've always had not quite like your story, how you had a lot of your clairs, we would say, right? That you were able to really visualize, sense, and feel. I would say that I was intuitive, but I wasn't, I think it was still developing, which is something I like to tell people because sometimes people feel like if you're not born with it, that you can't develop your intuition. And yet, I would say, and this is kind of a theme in the book, is that often I would give my power away to other people. So I would trust someone who was an intuitive reader more than what I was getting. And it wasn't until Joe passed that I was getting all sorts of readings and people saying different things, some kind, some not kind about him in spirit, that I really had to own, like, what do I think? And I think because it was so important to me that this was my person, that I stopped giving my power away and said, I don't want to know what you think. Like, I actually am gonna, what am I getting? And then from there, I think grief can be really transformative. And it did open up a lot of my intuitive gifts because I think I really dove deep. I started asking questions, challenging my own limiting self beliefs of someone else can do it. And I think, well, why can't I do it? There's, and that really helped me move through that. So it didn't happen overnight, but it was really a great gift that came from it.
Yeah, I always feel in my heart that all we need to do is, I mean, I myself do. It's not that I don't believe in psychics or anything. I know through my dreams or little things that come across me that this is the signs I'm supposed to be getting, and I feel we need to just sit back and feel the silence and just ask your questions. And you may not get the answer at that moment, but with the angelic realm, it could be a feather, it could be money on the floor, it could be all of a sudden, well, you turn on the radio and there's a words that you need to hear, or someone may say something to you. So I feel we need to be so open to it, and all the answers are truly within us. We just need to listen more.
Mhm. I agree. And I think oftentimes, and I was like this too, and still sometimes when you want a validation, right? You know something, but I want
Mhm.
someone else to tell me like that this is for, 100% my loved one in spirit or my guides talking to me. And no one can have that, right? It's like it's the world of spirit. It's not as in the tangible world that I can't physically prove it, but it is what you already know in your heart. And it's oftentimes, I feel like if someone asks a question and you give an answer as an intuitive, you're really validating what they already knew on some level,
Mhm.
but they needed to hear it from an outside source. And I think that's true because a lot of people, I always am amazed how with clients, if you tell someone they're intuitive and you just see them light up, and you're not telling them something they don't already know, but they almost wanted or needed that validation from someone who works in this field to say, you are really intuitive. And then it's like, I am, I can do this. And we all
Exactly.
need that little confidence boost.
Hmm. Well, the thing is, like I have clients that say, "Oh, but you're so special." No, you are as special as I am. I'm just using those abilities that we are all given, just more so. Again, you can anyone. Well, actually, what you said, everybody has these intuitive abilities,
Mhm.
and it's just a matter of tapping into them.
Yes, I agree. And I think sometimes we get
Mhm.
like, I don't really think competitive, but sometimes I think people think it has to look like someone else. So when you describe your abilities, if I expect that they have to look like yours, well, that kind of limits it because mine might be very different. And I think sometimes that can trip people up because they're like, oh, well, it doesn't look like Barbara, so I must not be intuitive. When in fact, their guides and loved ones are sending them all of these signs, it just looks different for them.
Yeah, because everybody hears differently and sees and feels, um and it's a beautiful thing when we finally know that, oh, I can do this.
Yes, it's very empowering. And that's one of
Hmm.
the messages that I like to give people of like, no, like you can do this. And often we have a heart desire. I want to talk to my loved one in spirit. I want to talk to my spirit guides. Well, of course you can. Like it's just like anything else. We have to practice it. And I always say it's like a muscle. You have to use it.
You have to use it every single day, and I use it
Yes.
every single morning,
Yes, I
and during
agree.
the day and at night. So yeah, yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you, someone who, for some of the listeners, that they're new to spirit guides, guides, what are they? Can you explain what are the spirit guides, and how would you explain, this in a practical way that they can understand?
So I can tell you what I believe, and you can let me know if you think something different because it is kind of a personal belief. But I believe that spirit guides really can be many different things. This could be a loved one who has passed, like a well ancestor. It could be an angelic being. It could be someone who has been incarnated here before that has reached that level of understanding that they're able to guide others. It could be a galactic being or an ascended master. So there's a lot of different types, I think, of guides. And I believe we have, I think, three like primary guides. That's what I've heard. I don't remember where I first heard that, but it always just kind of stuck with me. So I'm not saying that, is 100%, but that they agree to come in from the time you were born throughout your life until you pass, and that their job is to really help to my guides will kind of laugh and say they're kind of like the GPS in the car. Like they're here to help guide and direct you because they can see the bigger picture. I always say they have the bird's eye view. That's how they show it to me. And so they're not here to take over your free will. They also don't want to like force you to like have to turn right, but they can give you some guidance as to like maybe there's a job that I'm debating on taking, but it's not really a good fit for me. Maybe the boss isn't, really helpful. And so they can try to guide you of like, okay, but let's look over here, Gina. There's a better job, that would be a better fit for where we're trying to get you to go. And so they can send all sorts of signs and synchronicities to try to help guide you, but ultimately it's your own free will. And they're not meant, nor do I think they want to oversee that, right? It's just like we're here to be helpful. We're not here to do it. Well, my guides always tell me this. We're not here to do it for you, is what they'll
Yeah,
say.
we have to do the work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they can lead us, lead us away, to it,
Mhm.
lead us a path to it. But we need to do the work. And I always tell everyone it's not meant to be easy.
True. Yes, I
Healing,
agree.
because we're constantly shedding things that no longer serve its purpose.
Mhm. No, I agree. And I heard it once because so this isn't from me. But they said that it was from an ascended being, and he said, like, we didn't come here for a vacation. Like you didn't come here, your soul didn't come for a vacation where you sit on the beach and you just sit there. Your soul came here to learn. And so we are in this world of duality, and we are here to learn and to have an experience. And the only way to do that is to be aware, be mindful, to have life, and make those decisions, and also to have, I think, that self-reflection. That's where growth really comes.
So let me ask you, do you feel our spiritual guides versus the archangels uh, give us different messages?
Yes, I would think so. I would consider the archangels, separate. I think that there's all sorts of different types of beings that we can get information from, and so I would certainly think that one of the archangels could be on like your spirit team. That's what I tend to refer to my guides as a team because I have more than the three, and I think a lot of people do. We have, these groups that come together to support the work that we do, and then. You might laugh, but I also believe that we have what I call special ops teams. And the special ops team are
Uh-huh.
guides or angels that come in for a specific purpose. So let's say someone might be going through a very painful divorce. You might have your special ops team come in, and they're going to come in for that time period to help you to get you to maybe the right legal advice, to have the right support groups, and have everything in place for you so that you can walk through that period. And then when you reach kind of the other side and things are stable, then they step back out again. So I always don't hesitate to make sure I call for my team, but if it's something in like particular that I need help with, I'll ask like for that specific team to come forward.
Yeah, I do the same. I had an accident a few years ago, uh, of which I probably should have killed myself, to be quite honest. But as I was falling and hitting the ground, I could feel an angelic wing underneath me. I was meant to get hurt, which I did. I got hurt very bad, uh, but I didn't die. And I was walking and texting, and I
Hmm.
kept on hearing Barbara. Stop walking and texting.
Hmm.
Stop it. And I just ignored it, which I have never ever ignored a message from that point on. And unfortunately, I fell and hit my face on the concrete and crushed my nose. I mean, I
Oh
did a
my.
lot of damage to myself. Um, and the doctor, I had mentioned to her when she said, I have good things, I have good news and bad news. Well, as she's mentioning the bad news, I had mentioned to her, I could feel an angelic wing underneath me that I was supposed to get hurt because I wasn't listening. But I can feel that. And she looked at me, she says to me, you definitely had an angelic wing. She says, because if it was a trifle over more, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Oh my.
So they do when we're not listening. I mean, that's how I feel. They'll give us messages, and then they probably say upstairs, she's not listening. She's gonna have to get hurt a little bit.
Yes.
And that's what happened to me. And from
Mhm.
that point forward, I said, I will never, ever not listen again to those voiceless voices, those whispers, that we hear all the time.
Mhm.
But many of us just poo-poo it and say, no, I'm not listening the way I did.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, they are there to, it's always there for us. We just need to, I feel, be more aware and mindful of it. Do you find that you get like ringing in your ear many a times?
I do. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know why it's usually my left ear, but there's also been times where I'll be talking with someone and I lose my hearing completely, which it'll just distract me. So hopefully it
Mhm.
doesn't happen while we're recording. But yes, I do get ringing in my ears quite frequently.
Yeah, I do too, especially when I do an energy work session.
Yes.
It's like all this download is unbelievable. And
Mhm.
and I say, all right, I know you're giving me messages for this person that's on the table, or you're showing me, where you are doing the healing. But yeah, it's amazing when that happens.
It is. I always think it's really neat. It does distract me because there's a few times where I'll be like mid-sentence and then I kind of look like a crazy person because suddenly I just like can't get the sentence out because I'm so distracted with whatever just like came through this loud ringing or I lost my hearing and I have
Mm-hmm.
to tell the client, just give me a minute and then I'll continue on. So that is really interesting that you have that too. Not
Yeah.
surprising.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, and then my client, I'll even mention it to them and they'll say, oh, yeah, I get that too. Well, that's a download. They
Hmm.
are downloading information because it's like, we know something without knowing how we know it. Let's put it that
Yes.
way.
Hmm.
It's because
Now,
of
I don't know about you,
information.
but I don't normally know what that is right away. Like, so I don't like get the ringing in my ear and go like, oh, they're downloading, and say something. I just know that I get the ringing and then I continue on with the session and trust like whatever's meant to come through will come through.
Oh, yeah, I get
So,
that too. But sometimes it's like very there. And I
mhm.
say, oh, thank you. So, but yeah, it's amazing. They do speak with us all the time. So
Mhm.
let me, if someone who's just learning about all these spirit guides, how would you explain to them how to build like a relationship with their guides?
I think the first thing is to ask. So at least my guides always say that there's only so much they can do without you actually asking. So I think it's very much about saying and having that conversation, whether that's just in your mind. I talk out loud because that's me, or writing like a letter and saying, I'd really like to have closer communication with you. Can you show me how to do that? And then I always feel like it's like a friendship, right? If you're like, if you don't call your friend except for once a year, it's harder to form that friendship. So it's checking in with them. I do it daily. It sounds like you do it daily as well. But even if it's just pretty consistently that you're checking in with them, you're asking them questions. Can you help me with this? Can you send me signs? And then start to kind of pick your head up because oftentimes I think we're all getting signs, but if we're like looking down or not expecting it,
Mhm.
and I would say the one area that I can see that can sometimes trip people up is that they'll expect the sign that it has to look a very specific way. And if it doesn't fit exactly with what they've requested, they kind of discount it. So the guides always say the more kind of expansive and the more open we can be, then that gives them so much more to work with rather than saying, I'm only going to listen if I, have to see this red car drive by at 4:44 in the afternoon. Like, and we get so specific that I think it makes it a little bit harder for them to send signs. So,
It does because it may not happen at that moment, and it could happen 6 months later, and then you
yes.
say, "Oh, now I remember what that was." So
Mhm.
yeah, it's amazing how they speak with us. So let me, how do you practice strengthening your intuitive abilities?
For me, I feel like automatic writing is something that I really recommend. I'm a huge fan of automatic writing because that's really what helped me start to see it on paper. And I always like to share with people because I think people sometimes think that I communicated with my guides like I do now, where I'm like, I can bring them forward and talk. And it wasn't like that. So I always say, like, I get that where you're like, I'm trying to talk with them. I'm not sure if I'm getting something back or it doesn't seem to be as clear. And for me, automatic writing and getting a notebook, and I kept that as my spiritual notebook. And I would just ask a question and then I would just answer and learning how to lean in and get the response, whether that was a word or just one sentence, really helped strengthen that communication so that eventually I was able to sit down and then, just write as much as I needed to, and then eventually hear them and distinguish what's me and what's them coming through. So for me, that was a really invaluable tool that anyone could do.
Is that how you wrote your book?
No, oh, I wish I did that with that would probably have made it a lot faster, Barbara. But no, the book took like 3 years and a lot of
Uh-huh.
nudging from spirit of sit back down, Gina. You have to just sit down and write. And so, but I do include that in the book because it was such a valuable practice that I think that for a lot of people that they're going to be able to do it and that they're going to surprise themselves because I don't know about you, but I think the veil is thinning. And I think that more and more things are going to be coming apparent. I think more people are going to be online and their intuition is going to be rising. And I think it's going to be a much more accessible practice to people.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. I can see it now with so many people that were somewhat closed to it now beginning to open and understand that this is real. Angels do walk with us, and yeah, they're on a different vibration, but they are there. And the same with doing energy work. Um, I've had many people come to me that were atheists, and they came because the spouse or someone said, "Oh, you should go see Barbara," and they sat, says, "Oh, this is like, I don't know why I'm even here," but and then afterwards, it's like, wow, I felt all this feeling, and I saw different light, and now all of a sudden that changed for
Mhm.
them,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's amazing. So you also do energy work, right?
I do. Yes. So, and I love energy work. I think it's really needed. And so I think it's something that's going to continue to grow. And I think more and more people are going to realize the vast benefits of it, especially with the world being so loud and chaotic and the stress and everyone's feeling overwhelmed, that it's really going to be, I think, a necessary tool as we move into these next years. My guides say that the kind of the old practices aren't going to cut it anymore. Like we really have to kind of dig deep and do the work. And I think part of that is going to really come forward these next years of the importance of taking care of your energetic, your auric field, your energy body, as well as that spiritual state, whatever that looks like for you. But
Mhm.
being able to take care of that is going to be really crucial, I think, as we move into these next years.
Yeah, and I'm so happy I'm still here to see all this. Because back in my days, boy, you did not talk about this at all.
It
So,
really, I can only
yeah.
imagine how much that has shifted, and the fact that you were on the forefront of it is amazing. And I'm sure I know that people have still, there's some hesitation. Sometimes I was hesitant about telling people I did this work. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't tell my friends and family, that. And but I will say that at least for me, the hardest part was actually just getting over myself and just saying it. And then I was surprised at really the lack of reaction from people. Like I thought there
Mhm.
was going to be this big response, and there really wasn't. It was all kind of my own. But for you, there probably was people coming at you or saying negative comments and things like that would have been much more difficult.
Oh yeah, my mom would always say, just stop it because it's not real, and they're gonna put you in a psychiatric ward.
Oh,
And I
goodness.
thought maybe I was crazy, but yet my grandma, would always look at me and say, "No, you really see these things and feel them. You're not crazy." So yeah, it was that conflict, but I was able to overcome it in my 40s, but it took me a while, but I finally, came out and said, this is who I am and this is what it is. And you either accept me for who I am or you don't. And if you don't, that's fine with me because your choice.
Hmm.
Again, it's all about choices. But so let me ask you, when in your life did you actually ignore any guidance? I'm curious.
Oh, I'm sure I have a few stories on that. The story that came to mind was is kind of similar to yours, but it was a little more general. As I would say in my 20s, I was just really aggressive in my driving. I don't know why. I look back because now, I'm 50 and I drive like I'm 50. But I was a very aggressive driver and I kept getting pulled over. I must have gotten pulled over, I think, 4 or 5 times within a year. And in hindsight, I can see the universe saying, like, slow down, like, slow down. And I even had that like intuition, that nudge of like, Gina, you're driving too fast. Be careful, slow down. And I just wasn't listening. I just ignored it. Like, oh, it's fine. I was young. And eventually I was going too fast and it was a rainy day. The road was wet and I hit gravel and I lost control of the car completely. And it was that first time as a young person of like not being in control of a vehicle because I was overconfident. And I went left of center. I almost had a head on. Luckily, I didn't, but I crashed into this culvert, this big like drainage pipe, and hit it so hard that it actually cracked the axle in the back, like where the wheels are, and
Oh
and
my.
bent the whole frame. I walked away luckily without a scratch, but it was it was a really good lesson. And then I ended up having, I have to tell this part because it's funny. I had to go to court because I had had so many speeding tickets with this. And the judge just read me the riot act and
Oh no.
said, I'm going to waive the 3 day jail time. And I was ready to pee my pants. I didn't know you could go to jail for
Oh yes,
ticket.
you can.
And it was, he
Mhm.
was so stern with me. And at the time I was in my 20s, like, oh, he's, being mean to me. But I realized pretty quickly someone was speaking through him, either you learn this lesson or there's going to be consequences. And it got me right on the straight and narrow. And I kind of cut back on that. And I'm still safe in here today. And knock on wood, I have not had a speeding ticket since
We
since
learn.
that happened. Yes.
Anything else where you
Oh,
ignored
one
your
second.
your guidance?
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara. I lost my
Oh no,
headphones.
it's okay.
Headphones came out. Okay, sorry. Now I'm
Oh,
back. I was
no,
laughing and my leg hit it.
oh no, I was asking if there was anywhere else where, you ignored your guidance that came through.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I
Yeah.
could probably tell a lot of stories. I would say one that happened in the last couple years was that I got into a business partnership and I ignored my own intuition and I ignored the outside guidance that would come through other people that kind of would put some words of caution. Are you sure you want to do this? Have you thought about this? And I kind of, I did what a lot of people do. I think that I kind of went, well, I'm just going to give this person a pass or, oh, it's fine. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because it was a lesson, ended up having to like formed kind of a business partnership. And then when I had to dissolve it, it was costly. I had to get an attorney involved. And I thought, my goodness, if I had just listened to my own guidance and to my guides, I would have prevented myself from kind of getting enmeshed in this without really stopping to ask myself, is this an alignment? And I didn't ask that question. So it was a good lesson, but it was a hard lesson about taking that time to pause to ask that, is this an alignment for me? Is this for my highest good? Rather than just assuming because someone says they want something that's really in your best interest.
I had the same situation, but it cost me dearly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where I even at one point thought about suicide
Hmm.
because I had a very big life insurance policy on me. And I remember sitting on my steps and saying, how am I going to get over this? Boy, it was really bad. And she took me for a ride like crazy with money. And the thing is that I could feel it was wrong, but yet I still allowed her to have power over me. And Spirit actually talked me out of it and said, you're doing this for money, you'll be fine. It's just, you just got to pick yourself up, wipe yourself off and know that you're not going to do this again and get through it. And I did. It took us about maybe 3 or 4 years to get out of it, but I
Hmm.
I did. And I can see why people get like, where like you feel life is going to end because you've
Hmm.
done something that is devastating, to your family.
Yeah, it's hard when we don't listen to our own inner guidance. And so for me, that was part of it of, and it really, as always, with a lot of things, it's growth, right? Why did I give my power away so easily?
Mhm.
That's been a theme, I think, for me sometimes where when I pull back and look as I've grown and I go, well, why did I give them my power? Why did I just allow my own inner knowing to be kind of moved to the side rather than saying, this is what I believe? And I think it's part of getting older. I feel like now that I'm like coming into my 50s, I'm hoping that I've learned those lessons, but
Mhm.
I look back and do kind of ask those questions. So my situation luckily doesn't sound as detrimental as yours, but it was still a really, really difficult path. I think those people who come in are really difficult teachers, I think, to have, but ultimately we dig deep and we find like that reserve and that self power to continue to go forward.
Do you feel that um, when we incarnated, it wasn't intentional so that we can
I think
maybe.
some of them, this one, I feel
Mhm.
like for me at least, they kind of have said, like, you kind of should have listened. that
Yeah.
that I wasn't really like paying
Uh-huh.
attention. And I
Hmm.
mean, so I wish I could say like, oh, this was part of my big soul lesson. And I have to laugh because not to share too much, but I had gotten married in my 20s and it was the same thing, red flag, red flag. It was a very short marriage and luckily I was able to get out. But I did laugh because years later I was asking my guides and somehow it came up. And one of them said, Gina, you were only supposed to date him. You weren't supposed to marry him. And I was like, oh, so,
Uh-huh.
we have free will. And I think sometimes we're supposed to walk like near people and have maybe some lessons, but how much you enmesh with them and allow them into your life or to take over power. I think sometimes there's some openness there. And I just sailed right into it and ignored the signs. So
Do you feel that some people actually do give up their power to some people?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think that it's really unfortunate. But I do. I think sometimes, no, I don't want to go off on a real big tangent, but I think sometimes there's some soul loss there around that. If you are really, really, truly giving your power away to someone else, I think that that's difficult.
Do you think we have soul contracts with one
I
another?
do. Yes, I do. I think that we have, I don't think everything is outlined, but I do believe that we have soul contracts, things that we've agreed to do. I think there are kind of different players that can come in at different times from your soul family to play different roles. And yeah, I absolutely believe in soul contracts. So I do think even for me in my life, I think Joe and even with his passing, I think that was a soul contract. I think that we had a contract to come in and to be together to bring these two children into the world. And I think we had lessons to learn, with each other. And I think that ultimately he's helping people heal in grief. And I think that that was part of it. I think that's why I felt so strongly nudged that like I need to tell my story so that we can help other people.
Do you feel people in a situation like yours ever get over grief?
Um, well, I'm sure you know this, Barbara, because I'm sure that you have grief. I don't know that you ever get over it, right? You always miss the person. I don't know. At least for me, I could say I'm not so. I know he's with me and I still talk with him, but it doesn't mean I don't miss him. It doesn't mean I don't have waves of grief that hit. It's still hard. Like you still cry and you still miss the person. When my parents, they're still here, but when they pass, I'm going to be really upset. I can't just spiritually bypass that and say, like, oh, they're in spirit. Like, I wish it was that easy, but we are here. We have our loved ones. And if you love deeply, then, you do feel that loss, even if they are with you. But I do hope that we can start to have a little bit different narrative around grief. That's always been my hope to, instead of this feeling of having to be absolutely separate, I miss you and I know you're still with me. You're just not, I just can't see you. I can't physically touch you, but I know that you're still living life with me, that you know what happens in my day to day, that you still care and very much involved in guiding it, but I can't physically see you. And for me, that feels much more comforting to still have a relationship. It's just different because they're in the world of spirit.
I know when I was writing my first book, my grandma would come in all the time. And I had my dog, Sammy, he was a Rottweiler, and he would sit right by me, and I could feel, I guess maybe she was coming through him, through me. I could feel, and you mentioned before about, automatic writing, and that's how I wrote my book,
Oh, I love
was
that.
was through my Sammy and my grandma. And when I look back, I say, wow, who knew that that was that way? I mean, even though I could feel it, but it's amazing how they do give us guidance.
Mhm. Yes, I
And
love that. And pets are unbelievable. I
oh,
think
yes.
that if you
Hmm.
have a soulmate pet, I mean that and those that's a loss too, right? Like
That was
it's
big.
hard. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very hard when we lose our beloved pets that we just adore when you have that really special bond with them. I always say grief is grief. And I had a dog that I adored and lost him about a year before Joe passed. And if you actually asked me to like put that actual feeling of emotion of grief, it's the same because it's
Same.
grief. It's
Mhm.
the loss of, and it's not a magnified, it's just loss that I really adored this. It was my dog Bailey, and he was just with me, had been with me for almost 14 years. And grief is grief. It doesn't matter if it's a person or if it's a beloved pet.
Do you feel, not to get off the track, but that pets are very intuitive?
I do, yes. And I think we have some I can't talk, very special soul bonds. I got excited. I was like, oh,
I know.
I
Uh-huh.
love talking about this stuff. So yeah, I do. And I think that I don't know how you feel because you're an energy healer. So I should ask, but I feel like sometimes they help transmute some of our energy.
Yeah,
So it's
they
like
do.
some of them are really good at kind of coming in and filtering. Like if we're anxious or stressed, like we have three dogs, but one of them in particular, we call him like the Zen. And if you're anxious, that dog will come and just sit like right next to you. And I think he helps to rebalance and kind of pull some of the anxiety off just by kind of vibrating next to you. So,
Yeah, my Sammy did that. We had to move from Brooklyn to Florida for a year to take care of my mother and father. And it was tough being in a household where here I am wanting to do healing on them, and they're like, no, they don't want any part of it. And Sammy, within that year, would always come over to me when he knew I was sad. And then I realized, this is their journey. It's not mine. And if this is their choice. If they didn't want me to do healing, it was fine. And I finally, put that all together. But he would always come over to me. And then a year later, he developed a tumor, a very big tumor in his stomach, and ended up passing away. But when he passed away, he also mentioned to me that I would be moving to California. And I said, why would I be moving to California? I'm here with my mother and father, and we lived in the same house. We bought a big house. And his answer to me was, no, you will be moving to California. And lo and behold, 2 months later, my daughter called me that she was pregnant and she lived in California. And I said to my sister, you can have the house. I have to move. And that's exactly what we ended up moving to California.
I
So
love that.
dogs definitely can feel and sense, and it's amazing the unconditional love that they have for us. And if only we felt the same with everything else, this world would be an incredible world to live in, I feel. But yeah, it's and even cats. My Kyla, my granddaughter, has two cats and very intuitive. I mean, you can just sense it. And when I walk up there, and usually cats are not very lovey-dovey, but these two are all over me, kissing, and it's like,
Oh, that's
it's
sweet.
so, it's so
Yeah.
nice.
I always feel like cats have a very like galactic energy to me. I don't know why. Dogs always feel kind of very like earth, like kind of grounded energy.
Hmm.
And then cats always feel kind of out there, like more cosmic to me when I feel into the energy.
Yeah, it's a little different with the cats, but yeah, pets I feel in my heart show us so much love and unconditional love, and that's something that I guess we as humans need to truly understand.
Yeah, they model it beautifully for us. And I think sometimes we think that we're like above them. And yet I agree with you. If we could actually view the world more the way they do, it would be a much more loving place.
Oh, it would be, believe me. So let me ask you, you do Corona Reiki?
Karu- No,
Karuna?
I don't do
Oh,
Karuna Reiki. I get that
oh,
question a lot because
oh,
my company is the Karuna Life. But no, I'm actually founder of Trimatri Reiki, which is a
oh,
different form of Reiki energy healing. And just like everything has frequency, it's just a different frequency than I was originally trained in Usui Reiki, which is usually the one that most people know. And I have the utmost respect for Master Yusui. I've worked with him in spirit. He's really wonderful. And it was very unexpected, but I ended up bringing through a new frequency of Reiki, which I ended up naming Trimatri. So.
oh, so how does that differ from your regular Reiki?
So the way that well, you're an energy healer. The way that I
Mhm.
describe it usually to people is that it's just a different frequency. It's a different energy vibration. And I believe, or at least this is how my guides have explained it, is that when Master Yusui, I call him Master Yusui, but when he brought in what we call Yusui Reiki, it's a certain vibration and frequency. And if you think of it as like a radio, it's like that's like one channel that frequency came through. And you could say Karuna Reiki would be like another station, and then you can kind of come through. And as consciousness has grown and evolved, new stations are popping up because we can access them. And so the energy that I was attuned to in spirit came through a few years ago. And I had an attunement. I realized like this energy, like you could feel it. It was a very physical, like attunement. And then it was shown to me that this is it's a different type of energy. It's different. And so they eventually had me name it. And so I named it Trimatri. And I have three specific guides. I don't know if you want me getting the whole thing, but I have three specific guides that
Uh-huh.
work with me on this. And so that was why I named it Tri for the three. So it's a different form of Reiki. People say there's a different frequency to it. And when I do like attunements, it's a different energy. So one's not better than the other. It's just who it resonates with, and I think that you get called to the lineage of Reiki that will resonate most with you.
So do you also do clearing with it?
I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you do prana healing or, clearing or,
So I would say, I mean, I have there's a clearing symbol that they showed me, and it's really clearing in joy. And so and I'm not sure what you believe for energy healing, but what they've been showing me over the last couple of years is that rather than trying to like push out negative energy, right? Because that's just kind of like, oh, when you push something out, they always show me then there's a resistance back, right? If I'm trying to push you away, you immediately feel. But what this is really doing is when I'm doing energy healing, I'm sending this higher vibrational energy in, but rather than trying to push out, it actually just welcomes it in. So if there's grief in your heart, right, I'm not trying to push it out. I'm actually just welcoming it into that light so that it can naturally transmute and then leave the field. So that's why I think people, and I'm sure you have this with clients as well, they say they feel lighter right after energy healing because you've moved that energy that is a little bit more, I call it sticky. It's that heavy, sticky energy that we all tend to pick up as we go through life. And so with Trimatri, that's what we're doing. It's just a different frequency.
so now so you physically called it that name. That's how you teach it then.
Yes, correct.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Ah, now does it also involve the chakras?
It does, yes. So I work also in the Akashic records, and so I work with the records and I work with my guides, and so I teach it similar, but just like a little bit different because the Akashic records kind of chimed in and started giving me a little bits of different information about some of the chakras. So I would say that I do teach it maybe just a little bit differently. I think that it's helpful to know the chakras because that can lead to more personal growth. So let's say your throat chakra is blocked, and it's about like kind of answering those questions, right? So why is this blocked? Is this because I'm constricting it? I'm swallowing what I want to say, or am I speaking my truth, but I feel like I'm not being heard? So then there's the constriction in the chakra. So I think there's a lot of ways that it can help with self exploration when you have that understanding of the energy body, so that when something comes up, you can ask those questions. Gosh, where am I maybe not speaking my truth, or where is it I feel like I am speaking my truth, but someone else isn't listening, and then you can start to learn and peel that back a little bit.
You feel a lot of the blocked energy is like tribal, from the root chakra.
Oh, yeah. I think we overlook the root chakra a lot.
Hmm.
I think everyone, I always joke, everyone wants to go to the top, right? We all
Yeah,
want
I
third
know.
eye,
You
third
got to first
eye.
start at the bottom.
Yes, yes. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, it's not as glamorous and no one wants to, but yeah, that's the foundation of the whole system. So I always start with the root chakra. And even though I know that's it's not as glamorous as some of the ones that are higher, but if you want to be intuitive, you got to start kind of with the foundation. And
Hmm.
I think the more you can really anchor yourself down, the more you can go up. So you want to have a stable kind of energetic structure as you're doing energy work.
So do you also have symbols that you do with your what you teach?
Yes, I do. I was shown two distinct symbols. So one is for clearing, and then one is the main Trimatri symbol.
And do you still incorporate the Reiki symbols or no?
I don't know. I only
Mhm.
use Trimatri.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I mean I am a Reiki master teacher,
Hmm.
but I do healing based on what my grandma used to show me. W-
Ah,
So she never did symbols in any way. It's just energy healing and clearing. But
I think the symbols are really helpful.
mhm,
And I even told my guys, like, I don't want like 50 symbols. I think sometimes it gets
mhm,
almost
too
distracting or
much.
overwhelming. And you have to get if you've ever tried to do the distance symbol from Usui, I have to
Mhm.
have a sheet and you got to like, and it's 10, 11, 12. So I kind of felt like sometimes like simple is just as powerful. It doesn't always have to be complicated. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to read you, Barbara, but I was like, my hunch is you're probably doing more than the Reiki that you were trained in because it's
Yes.
part of your
Yeah, I
because it's
don't
part of
use
your
any
lineage.
symbols at all, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean it's not good. I mean, I always tell everyone you do how you feel.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. When you
but
give people
mhm,
permission to make something their own and kind of
mhm,
say, okay, what works best for you, rather than I just see where it can trip people up sometimes. They get so, and then they worry, like, oh, I think I'm doing this wrong, or that symbol's not right. Well, then
mhm.
your attention's getting distracted and it's making your confidence start to like waver, as opposed to sometimes, and I'm sure you've had this, you don't have to overthink it. Like you might go to a client's knee and you're not thinking about it. And then they'll say, like, oh, that's so funny because I have knee problems with that knee. But you didn't have to like try to be like, go to the right knee. It's not always so directive. It's just
No.
subtle and intuitive.
Yeah, and I always say you may not feel it, but it's working.
Hmm.
And don't never doubt
Yes.
because once we doubt, it's not it won't work. So,
No, I
just
agree.
know, trust, feel, and never doubt that it's there for us.
Hmm. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I think that's really true. And I also think that I think you're right because sometimes you won't feel very much. So
Hmm.
and that's perfectly normal. And so when we can set aside expectations, I think
Right.
that and just it's okay to be skeptical. I always tell people I'm skeptical actually. That's okay, right? Like you want to be skeptical, it's okay, but then you just have to kind of lean in and go where you feel like your heart is leading of I don't know why, but this feels right. So I'm gonna lean into this. And I think if you can do that, you're listening to your own soul's guidance.
Oh yeah, and they, as when we do healing, it's we're not the ones that do the healing. It's the angelic realm and divine being. They're the ones that step in with that little plug, you could say,
Yes.
that
Yeah, I
helps it
agree.
along.
Yes, we're just the conduit. So
Hmm. And it's a beautiful feeling. I mean, I know. Well, I do healing on myself all the time, and And I always mention to my clients, if you're feeling a little stress or anything, just put your hand on your heart and your solar plex and just breathe and tell yourself, I am calm, I am peaceful, everything's okay. And then the more we talk positive to ourselves, we can actually talk ourselves out of you know, a stressful situation or anxiety.
No, I agree. I think that's
Mhm.
really powerful. I think too, sometimes when people have like digestive issues too, I always say like sometimes like the energy is just stagnant. So even kind of just tapping to get those meridians open or just holding like hands on your stomach just to like send yourself loving energy can be really helpful to again to begin to move that if there's anything that's kind of sticky. But just sending yourself that calming, loving energy to yourself is a real gift.
Oh yeah, and I always say, well, you you don't need to learn. I mean, of course, it's great to learn this because I love to teach, but just trust the fact that you want to feel calm. It's the intention and the intention that sets forth the energy.
Hmm. Yes, very well spoken. Hmm.
So, do you have like an online course that you teach, and what's up and
So
coming?
oh, yeah. So I'd like to do a lot of different things. So I do have an intuition development course that's going to be online. That's going to be published this month. I'm like just wrapping up on it, which I love. I do have I didn't think about this, but I do have an automatic writing workshop that's coming up on January 22nd. And so that is going to be about setting the stage for 2026 because I feel again more and more people are coming online. So I thought rather than like a vision board, why don't we have people connect in with their guides and then do automatic writing so that they can get their own guidance for what 2026 is going to mean for them. And so I'll be doing a Reiki meditation and then leading them through prompts. So that will be on the 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Is that online or they have to be in
It
person?
is going to be online.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. And
Hmm.
and so where can my listeners get a hold of you? You're such a beautiful soul, I have to tell
Oh,
you.
thank you, Barbara. I was like, I'm just really enjoying this conversation. The best way is to go to my website, which is www dot the Karuna Karuna life life.com, or they can find me on social media at the Karuna Life.
Okay, and all that will be in the notes. And Gina, I thank you so, so much for today. I truly enjoyed this, and it makes my heart I sing, I because I feel all the love and the light from you, which is a beautiful thing, believe me. Um, and to see like-minded people like yourself being able to help others is is a gift, truly a gift. And
Oh,
I
thank
thank I
you.
thank you very, very much. And to my listeners, I hope today's conversation with Gina touched your heart, the way it touched mine. And her words, they're so beautiful. And, it's a reminder that healing doesn't happen by rushing through life. It happens when we pause, we listen, and we allow compassion to lead the way. And again, Gina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your courage, with us today. And gee, you need to just trust. You need to know that you're never alone on this journey, and your intuition is always speaking to you every single minute of the day. So, again, trust it, nurture it, and just allow it to guide you back to your heart. And again, please look up Gina. She's a beautiful soul, and I'm sure her Reiki training and everything will be amazing, and the automatic writing that she's teaching. So until next time, I'm sending all of you so much love, light, and healing. Love, Barbara.